card. The referee. They're gonna stop this. They're gonna stop it.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. It appears that Julio Cesar Martinez, the former WBC champion, has been reportedly banned for failing drug tests. Happening in the background of what was Ryan Garcia's anti-doping case, it would seem that the Nevada State Athletic Commission reached adjudication a lot faster than the New York State Athletic Commission did with Ryan. Julio Cesar Martinez has reportedly been issued a 9-month ban for failing a drug test. The Mexican, 29 years old, according to Ring magazine, tested positive for S5 diuretics and other masking agents in a test conducted after his majority decision victory over Angelino Cordova at the T-Mobile Arena in Vegas on March 30th, and has therefore been banned by the Nevada State Athletic Commission. The same publication also reports that his suspension has been backdated to March 30th and will last until at least December 29th of this year, that he has been ordered to enroll in a random drug testing program that he will have to return clean samples throughout that period for his ban to be lifted, that the result of that fight has been changed to a no contest, and that he was fined $11,250 and forced to cover prosecution fees to the tune of $157. So nobody's gonna rush to Julio's defense? Nobody's gonna come up with elaborate scenarios to make him seem innocent? Why isn't anyone giving Julio the same benefit of the doubt that we've been seeing people give Ryan Garcia? They automatically just decided that he's not guilty. He can't be guilty. Where is that energy for Julio? Well, not as many people know Julio. Oh, so he's not as popular. No, he's not. So is the reason that Ryan Garcia is getting this massive vote of confidence, this benefit of the doubt, because of his popularity? And is the reason Julio isn't because he's not popular? Martinez versus Cordova took place on the undercard of Zoo versus Fundora and represented Martinez's final defense of the WBC flyweight title that he vacated in May. He had previously tested positive for the banned substance clenbuterol during random drug testing overseen by the World Boxing Council's clean boxing program. He, regardless, was then cleared by the sanctioning body on the grounds that their findings led them to conclude that his test results were a consequence of the ongoing contaminated meat issue in Mexico. I never believed that explanation. What seems like a get-out-of-jail-free card for any Mexican fighter of Mexican descent who's been in Mexico to say that, well, if you find something in my system, it's because the meat was tainted. It's too easy. Notice how I'm not giving him the benefit of the doubt or coming up with elaborate explanations? How I'm keeping the same energy for Julio that I kept for Ryan Garcia and several other fighters in this exact same situation. I'm not playing devil's advocate. For what? The most glaring difference between Julio's situation and Ryan's is that there are no ulterior motives and no interested parties positioned to defend him. Thus, it appears a clear-cut matter. You got caught, you were cheating, you're suspended. Simple as. A few nuances aside, this isn't Julio's first rodeo. He's actually tested positive for a banned substance before, even though he got off with a slap on the wrist. It's not the first time he tested positive for a banned substance. We don't know who conducted the anti-doping testing for this fight because VADA was not named specifically. Was it a commission test? These are the differences between Ryan's situation and this one. But if those differences are the reason that you don't have the energy for Julio's situation that you keep for Ryan's, I'll just wait until VADA busts somebody else, and I will ask the same line of questions. Since all of a sudden you want to be so suspicious of VADA and their affiliation with Victor Conti, seems that didn't start bothering you until Ryan got popped. So I'll see if it bothers you when somebody else gets popped. I can wait. It's all too convenient. Glaring hypocrisy is the best way to describe it. The conspiracy theorists and freedom fighters are not fighting for Julio the way they've been fighting for Ryan. I wonder why. You're suspicious of everything else, at least everything associated with Ryan's case, but not this one? That's convenient. In any event, Julio's gonna sit out what remains of this year. His super flyweight campaign has been brought to a screeching halt. Upstairs in the men's lightweight division, Gervonta Davis versus Vasyl Lomachenko negotiations have now resumed for a WBA and IBF lightweight world title unification fight following Tank's win over Frank Martin. And Bob Arum has confirmed these talks are ongoing per Dan Rafael. If this fight actually happens, they're saying it's gonna happen in the fall. And if Gervonta Davis is fighting Vasyl Lomachenko in the fall, that means he's not fighting Isaac Cruz. So if Isaac stays WBA champion in August and beats Rayo, he's going to have to find somebody else to fight for what remains of this year.
At this age, at this point of his career, can Lomachenko beat Gervonta?
I think 5 or 6 years ago, I would have picked Lomachenko right away. Right now, it might be too hard to. I think, you know, at his age and his size also, because he's not that big of a lightweight. I think I'd have to favor Tank. His power, you know, is just unbelievable. But Loma's got great skills, man. Loma's the one that will not be afraid of him. Loma's the one that will be in great shape. So if he fights smart and knows how to win the first few rounds and then fight smart the rest of the fights, the rest of the rounds, then there's a chance he could pull it off. You know, Loma's great. He's a very smart man. But I just think Tank's power is going to be too much.
Sounds a lot like veteran trainer Robert Garcia likes Gervonta Davis's chances, given how much time has passed, that his power in his youth will be too much for the veteran fighter and 3-division champion. The odds makers have Gervonta as the favorite. He's already opened up as the favorite going into what could be the Vasyl Lomachenko fight. I'm still not fully convinced this fight is going to happen, but it is something tactless and tasteless, like what I've come to expect from Team Davis. That, of course, after avoiding this guy and avoiding this fight for 7 years, now you want to fight him when he's in his mid-30s, mid to late. That is the kind of stuff they would do. Per Ring Magazine, the vacant Ring Magazine lightweight title will be on the line if Gervonta Davis versus Vasyl Lomachenko gets made. A new Ring Magazine champion will be crowned. This allows Gervonta Davis to tick off on some boxes he's never ticked off on because he's never been a Ring Magazine champion. At any weight, at 130, at 135, at 140, he's never been a Ring Magazine champion. The only way you get your hands on the Ring Magazine title is to fight a somebody at the weight, somebody good. But how good is Vasyl Lomachenko at what, 36 going on 37? Well, isn't Terence Crawford 36 going on 37? And isn't Alexander Usyk 36 going on 37? Or is he 37 already? How are we saying that Lomachenko is too old for Gervonta Davis, but those fighters aren't considered old and they're at the top of their game? For starters, those fighters are not about to fight someone that has been actively avoiding them for 6 or 7 years. I mean, if we're going to do this, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it all the way. What sets this situation apart is Gervonta Davis quite openly aged Vasyl Lomachenko out. That you could have fought him a long time ago, but you waited. You deliberately waited until he got older. It's not my imagination. Everybody knows. I'm not taking a better late than never approach with this. You've been trying to age him out. If you now finally feel comfortable enough to fight him, it's because 7 years have passed since this was a hot topic, a hot button topic. You knew what you were doing, and so do I. I've seen the sentiment expressed in some circles that what this is a cherry pick. This is an intriguing sentiment. That this is a cherry pick that could go wrong. Do you remember how old Manny Pacquiao was when he fought Keith Thurman? He was, what, in his early 40s? Clearly not the same fighter that he used to be, but still good enough to beat a PBC scrub, a PBC bum. And we've seen over time what usually happens when top-ranked fighters fight PBC fighters. Vosdick beating Adonis Stevenson half to death. Artur Beterbiev beating Marcus Brown half to death. Even though Terence Crawford was not contractually signed to Top Rank at the time that he fought Spence, he was still developed by Top Rank. He was still groomed by Top Rank. He knew he beat the hell out of Stephen Fulton. Tyson Fury beat the hell out of Deontay Wilder. In a nutshell, we've seen what usually happens when a top-ranked fighter fights a PBC fighter. And I guess that's compelling when you look at it that way, that this is a cherry pick. It's definitely a cherry pick. Gervonta Davis is deciding to now fight Vasyl Lomachenko as opposed to years prior, and that does make it a cherry pick, but it could be a cherry pick gone wrong. And I have long maintained that Gervonta Davis may suffer a loss at some point, but it'll be against someone he's expected to beat.
When he's expected to win.
As he is expected to win this fight, he navigates his career and selects his opponents so carefully. There are very few instances where he would go into a fight as the betting underdog, and this isn't one of them. The lines have already opened up, and he's the favorite.
Loma's the underdog.
So, some people, they think Loma can win. They actually think he can win. If he were to, that would be a pretty big upset. Monumental. The amount of time and effort that has gone into hyping up Gervonta Davis and putting him on a pedestal for not having a career like Vasyl Lomachenko, it's insane. That house of cards would all come crumbling down if he were to lose to today's Vasyl Lomachenko, who to many people has clearly lost a step. He's not the same fighter that he used to be, and if Gervonta Davis were to lose to him, get beaten by him. If you thought Wilder losing a Fury made the usual suspects lose their minds, if you thought Spence losing a Crawford,
If you thought that hurt.
I wholeheartedly believe Gervonta Davis losing to Vasyl Lomachenko would be worse than that. They would take this worse than any of that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Vasyl Lomachenko losing to Gervonta Davis is a distinct possibility as far as I'm concerned, and if he did, well, I wouldn't take it that hard, wouldn't mean much to me.
Because he doesn't mean to me what Gervonta means to them.
It wouldn't be a shock. We've seen Vasyl Lomachenko lose 2-3 times already.
But Gervonta's unbeaten. He's supposed to be in his prime, and he's supposed to be the bigger, younger, stronger fighter.
Some people say he's pound for pound. I've seen some people say that he's a better lightweight than Duran was.
He can't lose this fight.
A 37-year-old Vasyl Lomachenko, he can.
And it wouldn't be a shock.
But if Gervonta Davis lost, well, that would turn some people's worlds upside down.
Lomachenko constantly fights these big lightweights who are they're way bigger than him. You know what I mean? He's got to outskill them to a different level. He's fighting guys in a weight class that he doesn't belong in. Well, Tank Davis is actually a former 130 pounder. We just talked about how he weighed 2 pounds less. You're getting a fight where Lomachenko is fighting a guy more his size at lightweight, which hasn't happened. I mean, the lightweights Lomachenko has been fighting have all been way too big. Every time he steps in the ring, these guys look like they were different weight classes, and yet he still was able to unify 3 out of 4 major world titles in the weight class, which was amazing in and of itself after doing what he did in the lighter weight classes.
That's what we want to see Tank in the ring with, man. He has yet to face an A-level guy, a guy that's like him, someone that's going to give him a threat or be a threat. I think I've always wanted to see him fight against Loma.
You know, yeah, you're getting a little bit of an older Lomachenko, but the name Lomachenko still carries a lot of weight.
That's going to be huge. That's going to be huge numbers pay-per-view wise if both Lomachenko, the version that we just saw, and Tank, if he comes out clean, if they were to match up sometime in September or even December, man, that'd be a fantastic fight.
Sort of the right scenario. It's the scenario boxing gives you. It's the new lion takes out the former lion, you know, as you're getting older. It's sort of the natural transition of things.
Paulie Malignaggi says that it's the new lion versus the old lion. The new. Not so new to me. Not if you've been around long enough that you've been avoiding him for 7 years. You're not that new.
You've been at the same weights for many years now, so you ain't new.
And you can't say that it's a passing of the torch fight. No, it's not a passing of the torch, because Gervonta Davis is intended to be the torch bearer. Don't they say that he's the biggest name and the biggest draw at these weights? It's not a passing of the torch fight either.
It's a cherry pick.
Albeit a very intriguing cherry pick, but it's a cherry.
It's a cherry pick.
Tim Bradley says that commercially, this could do big numbers. Big. How big are we talking? I don't know that it does $1 million. I do think it does better than the Hector Luis Garcia fight, better than the Frank Martin fight.
Better than Rolly, better than Isaac.
But not better than Ryan. Not bigger and better than the Ryan Garcia numbers. I would put the pay-per-view buy rate for this fight somewhere in the neighborhood of 400,000 to 500,000 pay-per-view buys. Maybe a little more with promotion.
But 400,000 to 500,000 in that neighborhood.
They're not as cynical as I am when they talk about the fight. not as pessimistic or prejudicial. I don't expect them to be. They're not going to penalize Gervonta Davis, figuratively penalize him for waiting till Vasyl Lomachenko got older and lost 1 or 2 more fights. They're not going to do that. They're talking like he's the Vasyl Lomachenko of old. On that predication, does Vasyl Lomachenko actually stand a chance? And I think that he does. I mean, I do think he stands a chance. It took Gervonta Davis 8 rounds to finally find Frank Martin and stop him. It took him 12
rounds
to take out Yuriorkis Gamboa, a one-legged journeyman.
Knocked out 2 times before that, in less time than it took Gervonta.
And he didn't knock out Isaac Cruz at all. Isaac Cruz, who stayed in front of him, barreling forward the whole night. He was open, he was there, but Gervonta didn't stop him. So can he stop Vasyl Lomachenko?
Vasyl Lomachenko is a better fighter than all those guys, than Frank Martin, than Gamboa, than Isaac Cruz. He's better than all of them.
If he has an out in this fight, it's that Gervonta Davis doesn't throw a lot of punches within a round.
Or within a fight.
He doesn't really throw a lot of punches. He's a boxer puncher, counter puncher. He waits for the opportunity to get off a big shot.
That's what he's looking for, a big shot to hurt the guy so he can then move in.
Gervonta Davis had to chase down Frank Martin, who was doing very well up until he got caught. It took Gervonta Davis 8 rounds to finally find that guy, and that guy don't got feet like Vasyl Lomachenko, pedigree, subtleties.
So that's Vasyl Lomachenko's out. That he's a higher caliber of fighter than anyone and everyone Gervonta Davis has fought so far, with better feet than anyone and everyone Gervonta Davis has fought so far.
That's what's working for him. What's working against him is that he's a combination puncher. Throws a lot of punches. And the more you open up, the more you're open.
Open to be countered.
That's what's working against him. So the fight goes 2 ways. Either Vasyl Lomachenko manages to fluster Gervonta Davis in a way that he's never been flustered before,
Frustrated before.
peppered with punches before, or Gervonta Davis eventually catches him in between the punches and knocks him out.
What seems likelier to you?
I noticed in the Frank Martin fight that all 3 judges had Gervonta Davis losing the first 3 rounds to Frank Martin. All 3 of them.
But Frank's lack of experience did not allow him to maintain that lead. He's just not used to fighting under that kind of pressure and at that level.
He's not, but Vasyl Lomachenko is. And Vasyl Lomachenko, unlike Frank Martin, he gets stronger as a fight progresses, wearing down his opponent.
Because Frank got tired. Frank gassed out.
So Frank got caught. The opposite happens in a Vasyl Lomachenko fight. He gets more dominant as a fight progresses, landing at will, landing more often as his opponent is worn down. So I suppose that's an out for Vasyl Lomachenko, that he could fluster Gervonta Davis in a way Gervonta's not experienced before.
Maybe.
I don't know. I just know that if Gervonta Davis were to lose to Vasyl Lomachenko, today's Vasyl Lomachenko,
It'd be a disaster. A catastrophe.
Gervonta Davis wouldn't have no excuses. He's supposed to be pound for pound. He's supposed to be in his prime. All these different things.
Better not lose.